Welcome to the Epoxy Business Podcast. Proud member of the Woodpreneur Network, home of the #1 podcast in the wood industry. I'm Steve from Acres of Timber and Woodpreneur Life, and along with my co-host Jake from Ol Loggin Sawmill, we'll be diving into the world of resin and epoxy every week. If you're a maker or wood entrepreneur interested in learning the ins and outs of the epoxy business, this is the place for you. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoy this episode. The Epoxy Business Podcast is proudly sponsored by Ol Loggin Epoxy, the premier epoxy and resin system for professional makers and wood business owners. Making exceptional products starts with the right tools and materials. Visit ollogginepoxy.com today and find out how to take your projects to the next level. Once again, that's ollogginepoxy.com. Hey, welcome to a brand new episode of the Epoxy Business Podcast. I'm your host, Steve.
And I'm co-host Jake from Ol Loggin Sawmill.
So today, Jake, right before we hopped on, I just reminded you that this is our 1 year anniversary of Ol Loggin Epoxy.
I cannot believe it's already been 1 year, Steve. It's 1 year since we became business partners, right? We didn't actually release this until August? Right?
July. July was when we got our first shipment.
That's right. My goodness, it's gone by quick. And it took us how long did it take us to?
Forever.
It was like 7-8 months for all the,
what happened was that we started working in January on our agreement.
That's what it was.
So we worked on our partnership agreement before we even got our partner, and then we started working with an original partner. Remember, before we went to Lab Surface, and then so it took like 7 months, which is kind of like things take time, right?
Yeah. Oh, things take a lot of time. I didn't understand. Because when we first made the agreement, it's like, you think in your mind, cool, this is going to happen in the next week or two. But that is not the case. Whenever agreements come down, it is so back and forth. I remember that just being exhausting, going back and forth all the time. With not just me and you, but also our partners that we went. There's like 3 or 4 different agreements we had to sort out our agreement, and then we had to sort out an agreement with our manufacturing partner. And then that manufacturing partner didn't go through. And then we had to find a new one, and then there was there's a whole bunch of stuff. It's a lot.
Yeah, but then you also have to think about remember in our agreement, they're like, if one of us dies, our heirs get it. And then you remember we said there was that part of the agreement.
Yeah.
Stuff you don't really think about when you start a company, especially with a partner. You know what I mean? And so, so I wanted to talk about maybe what are the, what have we done in the past year? What are you most proud of in terms of Ol Loggin Epoxy?
I think what we've done in the last year is we created quite a bit of a community. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of brand labels out there that, that struggle a lot. And I think we did a pretty good job of recruiting a team. If you look at our posting, you look at our webpage, we're getting tagged all over the place. You look at forums, and what I love the most is all the time in forums, people go, "What's your go-to epoxy?" And I'm seeing more and more of Ol Loggin Epoxy on those forums. So I think that's one of our greatest accomplishments so far, and it's just the beginning.
Yeah, I know. It's literally only been a year. I mean, without getting in too much, I just remember we probably gross of a couple $100,000 just in sales. That doesn't mean profits. That we're not rich at all. But I mean, the good thing is that we both have our own thing, right? I have Acres of Timber, which is a marketing agency consulting for the wood industry. Jake's got his, empire that he's building with kiln dried lumber and tables. And so this is something that we've, come together. It's like a passion and a business that we're building, and we're learning a ton along the way, right? It's a ton of stuff that we're learning.
Oh yeah. I'm learning more and more every day. And I would think at this point, well, I'm about 5 years in now, Steve. How long have we actually been working together? Because you were coaching me probably what, 4 years ago, 3-4 years ago.
Yeah, things seem to keep getting longer, but it hasn't been that long. It hasn't. Well, I mean, listen, I know we worked together before the pandemic, so it was probably 2019 that we started. So I started coaching you, but I think you were first on the podcast in 2017.
Yes.
So that's 5 years. But when did you start again?
2017 is when I first started. When you gave me the podcast, I just was like 6 months into it.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I didn't even have any shops yet or anything. All I had was the sawmill.
Did you?
Yeah.
You even operate a sawmill anymore?
No, I haven't touched a sawmill.
That, my friends and listeners, is big business right there. That's big business. When you own a piece of equipment, you don't even touch it.
You got to learn how to delegate to grow in this business. A lot of people have a hard time with delegating, and you can't do it all yourself. You have to delegate, and then you have to be able to take care of the people you're delegating your work to, so you don't keep cross-training people over.
Oh yeah, you don't beat them down.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, that's impressive, man. Yeah, you don't touch a sawmill, so that means that you're pouring a lot.
We're pouring. We're making 2 to 3 tables a month. And I'm a year out.
That's not enough, man. That's not enough.
If I had more people, well, I know it's not enough. They take about 3 to 4 weeks to make, and then so we're rotating.
Yeah.
We make sure we're pouring at least once a week. If I had more people, we could probably get caught up. But I'm still about a year out on table builds. Maybe about 6 months now. But it keeps.
How are you keeping people like motivated during that time? Are people bummed out, or are they excited for that year?
They're excited. They tell me, because I'll tell people, I say I'm a year out, and majority of the responses I get is, gives me time to save money. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'll keep watching.
You collecting deposits?
No,
I hope so. Why not?
I'm not collecting any deposits until I get to your name. So what I do is I put you on a list.
Yeah. But
the deal is, if you find a table within that meantime, no harm, no foul. At least you're on the list. But if I get a deposit from you, then in my mind, I'm dedicated to you, and I have to put you.
Oh, you try not to be dedicated to people.
No, I just put you on the list, and if you're still watching and it's time for your turn, if you already got a table, cool. If not, no big deal. And then at that point, I get a deposit.
Yeah.
Before we start.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let's get back to the year. So what else did you learn?
The epoxy game.
A year in.
Whole new business. What I've learned a whole year in is not only just the networking part, which is a huge deal, but all the legal aspects, everything that I never knew. All the lawyers.
Oh my God, man.
The taxes and that whole game. It's a whole new learning process. And then we're dealing with chemicals too on top of that. So it has
chemicals and liability, and it's it's a little bit like, I think the thing that I took for granted is like the level of documentation.
Yes.
Like safety sheets and TDS, SDS and TDS.
DS and oh yeah.
Oh, all of it, right? Like,
and it all got to be notarized, and it's all got to be on the websites, and it's all a lot of information to share, and then our distributor where our distributors are at. I mean, we're constantly just adding stuff to the website. And then now we got, which is cool, and I might be jumping the gun here, but now we got a customer representation whenever you go on our website. You have a question.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. You could go to Ol Loggin Epoxy.com, and we have a chat function, and you can ask any questions, and we're getting back to you within 24 hours. So it's almost like we have customer service, and then now we're going to provide product support in the next couple of weeks too through our partners. So you have questions about, I think it's going to make things a lot easier, of being able to do that. I mean, for me, the thing that I really, really took for granted was like, it's not that I took it for granted, but just the notion that our products are changing people's lives. So it's just like it's a chemical, right? It's like a thing you pour, but people are eating off of it. Right? They are making money because of it. They're supplying their other customers, right? Like,
and
it's
not only that, you also, with epoxy, you save the trees from rotting. Because before epoxy, Steve, all these trees would be firewood. Everything that I built, all of them would have been firewood or just rotten into the earth. But because of epoxy, we give them a second to change it into art.
Yeah. Speaking of art, man, I'm really feeling we need to get more artists. I know you just brought on an artist, right? Like a resin artist. We need to tap into the creative artists, resin folks, because those I'm really loving the art, the creativity that's coming from that world.
There is so much more than just tables with
much more.
You could do it. You don't have to be wood either. It doesn't have to be just epoxy and wood. Like the whole art community and stuff that we're tapping into right now. There's so much opportunity in that art community that I'm just starting to see crazy things people are making. Like, not just ocean scenes anymore, like 3D real life ocean scenes.
Like geometric shapes and stuff, right? Like it's really cool. I'm excited by it. I mean, the other thing too is like, I guess another thing that I learned was like what you said about the networking of partners. Like, our world is global now.
Yep.
Right. Like, I mean, I was global before, but like now I'm global on a different level with a product. Before it was a service. And I think as also as in the process too, like your brand has grown too, right, Jake?
Oh yeah. And I knew that was going to help. My brand was opening up this epoxy company, because now I'm open up to, not only can you get our epoxy brand, you can also get our lumber too. For shipping all over the country. So it is upping my Ol Loggin sawmill part of the brand big time as well with this. And it's all and helping each other out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really cool. What is in terms of you, anything else that you've learned this past year?
Other than all the legal stuff, now I'm trying to learn how to keep myself straight and sane. As far as, like, there's so much work, man. There's so much people contacting, and there's, like, we're getting ready to go to Canada, right? We're getting ready to go to Canada to go check out the manufacturer of lab surface. And then on top of organizing everything, hiring more people and stuff. So
yeah, we're gonna need to hire more people for sure. Yeah, and I think that's probably the biggest challenge, because the margins aren't amazing right now. But again, Jake and I were building a brand that's gonna, hopefully outlive us, right? Like, build something that's like rock solid, that has a good name, and that's really behind this podcast. Like, we want to be able to show you what we're going through. Like right now, the biggest thing is that we had a lot of distributors, and the distributors that we were tapping into weren't necessarily the brick and mortar type folks. Our brick and mortar distributors, they're doing well for us, right? They're selling really well. But we quickly found out that people were using them, getting distributor prices, and then
using it for themselves.
And using it for themselves, right? So they were buying at, better than wholesale. So, I mean, which kind of forced us to, like, now we're going to create a wholesale program for those types of people, but really kind of zeroing in on getting proper distributors who have retail locations. And so that's one thing that we're working on. We also, too, just got a really big coup with our first ambassador, which is Matt Outlaw from 731 Woodworks. So if you look on Matt's YouTube channel, this is kind of like, this is the cool thing about having business partners and relationships and stuff. And so one of my clients wanted to do a video with Matt Outlaw, and I was able to hook Matt up with Jake. And so they did a video, and during the course of doing that, we were able to get Matt to be an ambassador. So Matt is killing it for us as an affiliate. So with that, so one thing is we're starting a wholesale program next. And then the second thing is that we're starting an affiliate program. So if you're an influencer, you'll be able to profit from sharing your link to that. How was it? Talk about Matt. How was it meeting Matt?
That was something else, man. That guy has a huge following, and you could tell why he has a huge following. He's
such a good guy, right?
He not only does he know what he's doing with the videos and all that kind of good stuff, but he's legitimately a genuine guy. He's a good dude, man, and it shows with his work. And he's, like you said, he's our first official affiliate. So now, if you're now that we've got tapped into that market, he's able to profit off using our link, our affiliate link, and then for content creators out there, we'll be able to do a lot more of doing the little affiliate links. So I think that's going to benefit us big time. And that's another learning thing with that.
Yeah, right? Yeah, absolutely. Tap into these people with large followings. And also at the same time, Jake, you're kind of like mentoring him through epoxy, right?
Yeah, he never used epoxy before. This is his first time, and he loved it. After he came down to our shop and we gave him the tour and we showed him what he does, what we do, he's just all about trying to do epoxy work now. And so
isn't it funny the mindset of epoxy? You remember before I started pouring anything, you're like, come on, man, do it. You scared? And I was like, you know what? I think I kind of
It's so intimidating at first because, epoxy isn't cheap.
Epoxy isn't cheap. Yeah, you don't want to mess up.
What you want to do is invest that much in epoxy, and then you see your epoxy spill all over the floor. So I always advise people, just start off with a small tray first.
Yeah.
Get the hang of it. Once you get the hang of it, do a table. But I have had a few people come and just say, oh, I can do it. And they just go straight to doing the table. But it works every time, and that's what we're here for. People call me and ask questions all the time on how to do this. And that's why we're content creators.
Yeah, man. So we got the wholesale, we started a customer service, we got the wholesale, we got the affiliates.
The wholesale too. So, when we first started out, we talked about how you can become a distributor, right? Just by investing so much or whatnot. And then we found that distributors are more along the lines of people who have a website, who have a storefront, and who's constantly selling the epoxy and making with it. That's distributors. Then you might find yourself as a wholesaler, not an active distributor just yet. So you can start off wholesaling the product because you're going to use it. You just don't get that 100-mile radius until you actually become a full-on distributor. And to become a full-on distributor, you got to have that website, storefront, be able to sell
a retail. You got to have a community and a customer base in order for you to do it. That's the thing. It's like we want to be able to if you're selling to customers your product, if you're selling what else are you selling in your shop? You're selling Osmo, right?
Yep, selling oils, pigments, molds, lumber, everything.
Speaking of molds, we're about to get molds onto the website as well.
Yes, we just partnered up.
Yeah, with Makers Reusable Mold. Yeah, we're making a lot of moves, man.
I know. I love it.
We're making a lot of moves. Gosh, this is so cool.
Well, and what's cool is, Steve, is you started this whole, helping other businesses out and stuff like that. you're part of the whole networking deal. And that's why I was so glad that I talked you into jumping on board with this podcast.
You totally did. You totally did. I was like, you should start. I said, you should start an epoxy brand. You said, we should start an epoxy brand. Yeah. It's like, I guess so. I mean, I don't know if I told you this, but like, yeah. So now I'm starting to like talk to people about investing in brands. So like now I'm like slowly kind of phasing out like the for hire agency, and I'm only going to be working on businesses. So investing in businesses and acquiring businesses, which I can get, a vested interest in. And so yeah, I mean, shout me out if you're doing over 500,000 in revenue. You're a wood business, and we should talk, because I would love to. I want to help scale. I want to help scale businesses. You know what I mean? Just because like I think when you're like at the 1-2 person shop, even if you're a one person, it's hard for you to grow, right? Don't you notice like by having employees, you're a completely different level, right?
Yeah, you have to delegate all the stuff that takes the time away from you so you could focus on your business itself.
You got to work on the business, not in the business, right? Like, I mean, Jesus, even like selling, right? Like what I love about you is like you posted that box elder table the other day.
30 minutes, by the way.
How many?
Sold in 30 minutes.
Sick. That's what happens when you got employees. Because how much did you touch that table?
It was just my imagination. Kimmy's the one that did it all.
Oh, because they had the ocean waves in it, right?
Yeah, well, the ocean waves and everything, and me and Jacob are just constantly working on tables, big tables. So that's why because she's an artist, she's an epoxy artist. So with her being able to do the stuff and a little bit of her creation and mine imagination, we're able to do stuff like that.
So cool, man.
So it works out. That's part of delegating again. I don't got time.
Delegating. I know.
I don't got time to do crafts and stuff like that, but there's such a big market in the crafts. I'm spending all my time on these tables. I don't have time to spend on these crafts. And then that's where Kimmy comes in. That's part of delegating. And she's doing an amazing job. She's also doing some of my content now too. So my reels and my TikToks, and because a lot of people don't understand that social media takes a lot of your time. Yeah, for sure. I love how, I think in many ways, your ability to take on more is impacted by how much space you have. Like, because if you have space to think about your business, then you can think a little bit more. And so I think right now, like, I don't know when this podcast has come out, but Jake and we're going to meet up for the first time in 5 years. We're going to meet in person. Yeah. We're actually meeting in Canada. How trippy is that?
That's so nuts, dude.
No. It's a trip. Because we've been friends for so long now at this point.
Well, yeah, we've been connected for 5 years.
We're business partners, and we've never even officially met in person.
You got to love the internet, man.
I know. It's all about network.
But the other thing is I manifested this trip. You know that, right? I've been talking about this trip for a very long time.
And I can't believe you're able to. I remember when you pulled that off. And then next thing you know, I'm like, holy smokes, we're going to Canada to an F1 Formula racing event, man. And we're going to Lab Service to check out all their production and where all of our stuff is being made from. It's going to be so
I'm
cool.
So excited, man. I'm so excited to just go and like meet with our partners and meet Jonathan, who's on the podcast. He's the president of Lab Surface. He's such a good guy, man. Like our conversation with him was so amazing. He's so on point too. We didn't even get to really debrief about it, but he's so on point. You remember when he presented PowerPoint decks to us about like pricing and the strategy and like all of his experiments. I'm like, bro, this guy went, he's got a master's in business because he does.
He started this business from 30 years ago, from the ground up, man.
Well, no, he said he bought it like 12 years ago. The business has been in business for a long time. It's been in business for like 30 years, but he bought it like, I think 8 to 12 years ago.
Yeah, but when he an ink factory.
Oh, it was only an ink factory.
Yeah,
and then
he didn't even start epoxy flooring yet. He started all that.
Epoxy. Yeah, he realized it was like the same. It was the same ingredients to make epoxy. And he's like, oh, I can make money using epoxy. I had no idea that this epoxy game was that big. I think that's probably the point behind the Epoxy Business Podcast, is that like there's money in epoxy making it. There's epoxy using it as a product, right? There's money making, and then there's epoxy in selling it, like money in selling it, right? Like so many different ways.
As a distributor, you have so many ways to make money, whether, like you just said, making it, selling it, and then there's other products you add to it: pigments, oils, lumber, you name it.
Lumber. Oh yeah, and it's like a value add. Like it's amazing. Dude, so just maybe one piece of advice for folks of things that you've learned in starting a separate business. What's the one thing?
One thing I learned starting a separate business, networking and CPAs, lawyers.
Yeah.
Keep yourself legit. Now that's very important, guys, because it's very easy to be like, oh, pull it off. Well, I'll be legal legit later. I'll do this in a couple more weeks, couple more months. The longer you pull off and you try to cut corners, the worse it's going to be for you. Yeah. You want to make sure that you are stress-free with any legal obligations out there.
Yeah. So my lesson is it's cool to have a business partner, because like I had my very, very, very first business that I had, over 20 years ago. I was very young and I had a business partner, and we were so tied together, like my finances, her finance, like it was so tied together. I was like, for my other business after that, I was like, I'm never having a business partner ever again. I'm never having business partners again. But having you as a business partner, I was like, oh, we like have very similar temperaments. We come from very different backgrounds, but we have similar temperaments. We both work hard. We both like to take on a lot. And I think we're like, it's cool. Like I couldn't do what you do and you couldn't do what I do. And we both, but we complement each other. Yep. And the other part is like, we kind of give each other grace, because like, we're both family men. We both got businesses, and we like, we're not hard asses. Like we're cool with each other.
And this isn't our primary business either. So
this isn't our primary business. This is a side hustle.
Secondary business that we're just partnering up on, and it's just going into a little vault and growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. It's not like we're trying to survive off this business. So therefore, me and you,
it should be a very It's a very different experierience.
Because
at the same time, it's fun. It's fun though.
A lot of fun, because not everybody can just say, hey, let's start a business together and just let it roll. A lot of people need that money for something else, where you and I, we could just let it roll and see how big we can get this thing. And that's what we're doing. We're seeing how big, and we're reinvesting all of our profits back.
Yeah, we haven't taken anything out. Yeah. And so we're putting everything back into the business, into growing it. So, and now, let's say by year two, we'll be able to divulge much more, but I think we'll be double in a year.
I hope. What I would like to see is, because right now, I do all the shipping and all that kind of good stuff, all the Jake
does all the logistics. I do all the marketing and the invoicing and the back office kind of stuff.
I would like to be able to delegate that to a third party at some point when we get big enough. Right now we're just not big enough, but it's going to get about another year or so where it's just going to be, I'm going to need somebody full-time ship stuff and keeping track of this stuff. So that's just part of the business. That's part of growth.
Yeah, that'd be a good goal. By year two, we'll have an outsourced fulfillment place.
Yeah.
And so the truck will go directly to them. You get a little bit of it so you can do to your content. And then we'll go from there. All right, man. It was great to chat. Happy 1 year. High five.
Excited for it, man. And we'll, for I don't know when this podcast is coming out. Probably not next before week. We go to Canada, but I'll be bringing everybody that follows us to Canada with us through the stories and all that kind of good jazz. And everybody would end up meeting Steve along with me. So I think it's going to be cool content for us going to do this. And it's only, again, Steve, the beginning.
Only the beginning.
And the whole point of the podcast, guys, is that we want everyone's brand to go up. So we're gonna, not only are we going to be interviewing distributors, we're also going to interview customers that the product as well, right? And how it helps them and all that kind of good jazz. So this is a great way to help everybody's brand.
Absolutely, man. All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.
Hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Epoxy Business Podcast, proudly sponsored by Ol Loggin Epoxy. Make sure you subscribe and follow us so you don't miss the next episode. For more information on other offerings from the Woodpreneur Network, you can check out woodpreneurlife.com. We'll see you next week.